One of the most unusual questions a person can ask about the Buddha is this: was he a magician? At first the answer seems obvious. Many people imagine Buddhism as a philosophy of calm, meditation, and silence, not a tradition of miracles or supernatural displays. Yet when someone opens ancient Buddhist texts, they often discover something unexpected. Stories appear of the Buddha reading minds, remembering previous lives, appearing in multiple places, taming dangerous beings, understanding hidden thoughts, and performing acts that sound closer to legend than ordinary history. That immediately creates a question: was the Buddha presenting himself as someone with magical powers, or is something else happening beneath these stories? To understand this, we need to enter the world where the Buddha lived more than 2,500 years ago. Ancient India was filled with wandering teachers, philosophers, ascetics, and spiritual movements. People often judged teachers by visible signs of spiritual achievement. Some claimed secret knowledge. Others practiced severe self-denial. Some demonstrated extraordinary abilities to gain followers. Spiritual authority and displays of power were often connected. In that environment, if someone claimed enlightenment, people naturally asked, "What can you do?" According to traditional Buddhist texts, the Buddha did not completely deny the existence of unusual abilities. Ancient Buddhism contains descriptions of siddhis, sometimes called iddhis, abilities associated with advanced concentration and mastery of the mind. These included extraordinary memory, heightened perception, deep insight into thoughts, and in some stories even seemingly impossible physical abilities. Modern readers hear this and immediately think of magic. But Buddhism makes a distinction that changes everything. Magic usually means gaining influence over reality, using hidden forces to control events, change outcomes, gain protection, or acquire power. The Buddha's teaching points in almost the opposite direction. His message was not to control reality but to understand it. Again and again, Buddhist teachings describe suffering as coming from attachment, craving, ignorance, and the endless attempt to force life into our preferred shape. That means even if extraordinary abilities exist, they are not the goal. They are side effects at best and distractions at worst. This becomes clear in traditional stories. One monk developed unusual abilities and became proud of them. To demonstrate his achievement, he crossed a river using meditative power instead of using transportation. Expecting admiration, he received a simple response: years of effort had achieved something that could have been done for almost nothing. The point was devastatingly simple: power without wisdom changes very little. This idea appears repeatedly. People encouraged the Buddha to perform miracles publicly in order to attract followers. His response was unexpected. He warned against relying on displays of supernatural power. Why? Because miracles create admiration, but admiration is not understanding. Someone can witness impossible things and still remain trapped by fear, anger, greed, jealousy, and suffering. Instead, the Buddha described something greater than miracles: the miracle of instruction. Helping someone transform their mind. Helping someone understand suffering. Helping someone become freer and more compassionate. In this view, changing consciousness is greater than changing external reality. This idea feels strange because most traditions become stronger when leaders demonstrate power. Yet stories about the Buddha often move in the opposite direction. Whenever attention focused on supernatural ability, he redirected people toward practice. People asked for cosmic secrets, he talked about suffering. People wanted prophecy, he talked about awareness. People wanted displays, he talked about understanding. One of the most famous examples comes from stories describing challenges from rival teachers. According to tradition, they demanded proof of superiority through miracles. Accounts describe astonishing events, multiplying forms, appearing with simultaneous fire and water, creating displays beyond ordinary explanation. Modern readers usually divide into two groups. One group rejects the stories entirely as mythology. The other accepts them literally. But there may be another possibility. Ancient spiritual literature often communicates through symbolic language. Whether every event happened physically exactly as described may not be the most important question. The stories reveal how followers experienced the Buddha. They did not see him as ordinary. His calm felt impossible. His freedom from fear seemed beyond normal human behavior. His presence transformed people. To those witnessing radical inner freedom, miracle language may have felt natural. Think about this for a moment. Imagine meeting someone who never became defensive, never chased recognition, never acted from greed, never exploded in anger, never feared losing status, and never seemed controlled by anxiety. Would such a person feel ordinary? Probably not. You might not call them magical. But you might feel you encountered something beyond everyday experience. This raises another question: did the Buddha himself believe he had powers? Traditional Buddhism generally answers yes, but with a warning. Extraordinary experiences can emerge through concentration and meditation, but they are unreliable indicators of wisdom. Someone can experience visions, altered states, unusual perceptions, and still remain deeply attached and unhappy. Meanwhile, someone with no supernatural experiences may become profoundly wise. This distinction is unusual and powerful because it disconnects extraordinary experiences from genuine liberation. That idea was revolutionary. In a world where spiritual authority often depended on displays of ability, the Buddha suggested something almost opposite. Even if someone can perform wonders, they still suffer if they remain attached. In many traditional stories, people ask him questions about ultimate reality, the origin of existence, or whether the universe is eternal. Surprisingly, he often refuses to answer. Not because he lacked intelligence, but because he believed many questions distracted people from ending suffering. This does not sound like someone trying to impress others with mystery. It sounds like someone constantly redirecting attention toward direct experience. There is another reason people associate the Buddha with magic: meditation itself feels mysterious. If someone has never practiced deeply, the effects can seem impossible. Attention becomes sharper. Emotional reactions weaken. Awareness changes. Time may feel different. Compassion can increase. Thoughts become quieter. The experience of being alive changes. When inner life transforms deeply enough, ordinary language starts to feel inadequate, and people naturally reach for supernatural descriptions. Across many cultures, profound contemplative states become surrounded by miracle stories. But Buddhism repeatedly returns to practical questions. Are you less angry? Less afraid? Less controlled by desire? More compassionate? More aware? If not, unusual experiences do not matter. Ancient Buddhist teachings compare the path to a raft. You use the raft to cross the river, but once you cross, you do not carry the raft forever. Even spiritual methods should not become objects of attachment. That includes mystical experiences, beliefs, and even ideas about powers. The teachings exist to help people wake up, not to become objects of obsession. This is one of Buddhism's most surprising qualities. People often expect religion to emphasize belief, but Buddhist traditions frequently emphasize investigation. Observe your experience. Test the teachings. Discover whether they reduce suffering. The invitation is not blind faith, it is direct understanding. So was Buddha a magician? If by magician we mean someone performing tricks to amaze audiences, the answer is no. If we mean someone seeking power over reality, again the answer is no. If we mean a figure surrounded by stories of extraordinary abilities, traditional texts would say yes. But perhaps none of those definitions captures what made him extraordinary. The Buddha's central claim was more radical than magic. He claimed that suffering could be understood. That the restless mind could become peaceful. That greed and fear could weaken. That liberation was possible. And unlike magical power, this possibility was not reserved for a chosen few. No secret bloodline. No hidden ritual. No divine privilege. Only observation, discipline, and understanding. Maybe that sounds less dramatic than supernatural powers, but if a person truly became free from endless craving, fear, anger, and dissatisfaction, would that not be an even greater miracle? Perhaps that is why these stories survived, not because people wanted to remember a magician, but because they wanted language strong enough to describe someone who seemed to reveal what a human being could become. And perhaps the most surprising thing of all is that the Buddha never asked people to worship miracles. He asked them to wake up. Maybe that was the real magic.